नमस्कार। श्री Ramakrishna Kathamrita. Kathamritam tapta jeevanam kaviphiriditam kalmashapaham shravanamangalam Srimadaadatam bhuvi grunantiye burida janaha. Sri Ramakrishna Kathamrita Pratham Bhag Chaturtha Khando, and we are continuing with the Chaturtha Puriched, the fourth chapter. And incidentally, yesterday we completed the reading of 100th portion of this Sri Ramakrishna Kathamrita, and today we are starting 101st part of the reading, all Ma's grace, Ma's blessings that we have been able to complete this much of the reading. So we have in this particular fourth chapter, Sri Ramakrishna is telling us about how one having taken up, the slavery, having become a slave, taken up job for the sake of Kamini Kanchan, for the sake of lust and greed, how they keep themselves away from attaining the ultimate goal of realization, of having the ultimate knowledge, of reaching the God, of knowing the mother. And don't even get time to think about the Lord. Like Vijay Krishna Goswami said, he very much wishes to come to Dakshineshwar to meet Sri Ramakrishna, but now he has taken up a salaried job. He has become a paid employee of the Brahmo Samaj, and his duty is to teach the Brahmo devotees, give sermons, give lectures, sitting there on the pulpit of the Brahmo Samaj, and he's tied up now. And therefore, Sri Ramakrishna says that once you get into this, the bread-winning role, bread-earning role, and for the sake of lust and greed, you have to fulfill your, worldly desires, your materialistic desires, and then you have to take up the job. Then you don't find time, then you become slave of somebody else rather than becoming slave of your own mind and your own spiritual desires. Yesterday we saw that how Sri Ramakrishna told us about the priests of the Govindji's temple at Jaipur earlier, when they didn't have families and all. They were 24 hours, sort of. They were meditating, they were contemplating on nothing but Govindji. For them, everything in the life was nothing but Govindji. And they had such a tremendous power that when King asked them to visit his palace, they said, "Who is King? Ask King to come here. We don't have time to go to any king's palace." And after consulting with these ministers and other advisors, when King arranged these priests to get married, then what happened? They didn't have to wait for invitation from the king's side. On their own, they started running towards the palace, running towards the court of the king, begging, seeking, anticipating king to give them some kind of donation, some kind of money, some kind of help for their children's education, for their, they wanted, someone wanted to build the house, someone wanted to do this, other person wanted to do that, and all their pride and ego and self-esteem and that power of I belong to only Govindji, everything vanished. And today, Sri Ramakrishna is going to tell us another story about the 1200 clean, shaven headed Vaishnava monks and shaven headed Vaishnava nuns. And Through this story, Sri Ramakrishna is going to tell us that when men start mixing with women for worldly enjoyments, how they get into that carnal pit of getting away from their spiritual objective of getting enlightenment, getting illumination. And let us read about that story. Sri Ramakrishna is saying, Barsho Nera আর তেরশো নেরি আর সাক্ষী উদম শন এ গল্প তো জানো. Sri Ramakrishna says, you must have heard the story of 1200 Nera. Nera is shaven headed. The bald. Basically, the word is bald, but in this context, it is shaven headed monks and shaven-headed nuns. So 1200 Nedas and 1300 Nedis. Now there is a reason for this. Why these two different numbers? For the monks it is 1200. For the nuns it is 1300. So it is very interesting story. নিত্যানন্দ গোস্বামীর ছেলে বীরভদ্রের 1300 ন্যাড়ার শিষ্য ছিল. Now Nityananda Goswami's son, Veerabhadra, he had 1300 disciples who were shaven-headed, clean, no hair, and monks basically. তারা যখন সিদ্ধ হয়ে গেল তখন বীরভদ্রের ভয় হলো. When these 1300 monks, when they become spiritually perfect, all the austerities and sadhana and practices, they reached the ultimate goal on the path of spirituality. They became spiritually so perfect that Veerbhadra actually he started, he was alarmed. He was worried. Oh my God, these 1300 disciples of mine have become so much humane souls. They have learned everything. They know everything. They know the ultimate reality. So, although it was a matter of pride for the Guru also got alarmed. Why he got alarmed? তিনি ভাবতে লাগলেন. He started worrying. He started thinking, এরা সিদ্ধ হলো. These men have become ever perfect, so perfect. লোককে যা বলবে তাই ফলবে. So these people have attained such a stature that whatever they think, whatever they wish, whatever they feel, that will come into effect. It's like once you become spiritually awakened and absolutely perfect, whatever you think, it starts actually happening. This reminds me one story, one incident in our Ma's life. Ma once she was at Kolpada, and she told, I don't know what is happening these days. The moment I think of something, that happens. And this is exactly what happens in the case of spiritually illumined people. One day she was thinking about one of her mad sons who was a bit mentally imbalanced. And that very day, that fellow came there. He came to Ma, he offered his pranams. That's what Ma used to experience the moment she thinks of somebody coming to her or something happening that used to happen. Now, Veerabhadra's worry was that. I mean, okay, Ma was a different case. Ma was the divine mother herself. But Veerabhadra's case was these ever perfected human beings, the Siddhas, whatever they think in their mind, that will come true. What was his worry? What for? He says, যে দিকে দিয়ে যাবে সেই দিকে ভয়ে. Wherever they went, people will start having some kind of fear for them. Why? কেন না লোক না জেনে যদি অপরাধ করে তাদের অনিষ্ট হবে. By even if by mistake, if somebody does any wrong to these 1300 disciples, these are the moment they get angry with someone, they might think ill of somebody. And then what happens? The moment they think ill of somebody, he will have come to that person who has offended these sadhus, these Nedas. That was Veerbhadra's worry. They have become so perfect, they will, whatever they think, it will come true. And if someone by mistake, by chance, unknowingly hurts these people, these siddhas, and these siddhas think ill of that person, ill will come to him, grief will come to him, misery will come to him, that unhappiness, everything. So that was his worry. There nishto hobe. Person who might have unknowingly hurt one Neda, he will bring a calamity upon himself. এই ভেবে বীরভদ্র তাদের ডেকে বললেন. Now thinking about this, the worry and compassion for other people, ordinary people, who by mistake, unknowingly, they might hurt the feelings of these people, they will get badly affected. So, being compassionate to those people, one day what he did, তাদের ডেকে বললেন, he called all of them 1300 and he told them, তোমরা গঙ্গায় গিয়ে সন্ধ্যা আহ্নিক করে এসো. Go to Ganges, perform sandhya, perform worship, and then come to see me. Veerbhadra told his 1300 Neda disciples. জ্ঞাদাদের এত তেজ যে ধ্যান করতে করতে সমাধি হলো, কখন জয়ার মাথার উপর দিয়ে চলে গেছে হুঁশ নাই. Now, the Nedas, they had attained such a great spiritual perfection that they would go into samadhi immediately when they used to sit for meditation. That was their achievement. That was a level that they had reached. Immediately the mind used to go to the seventh plane and they used to get merged in samadhi. So that was their power. তখন জয়ার মাথার উপর দিয়ে চলে গেছে হুঁশ নয়. They even never used to, even if they were sitting in the Ganges, offering prayers and meditation, doing meditation, they would even lose their consciousness and they would not become aware that there is a flood in the river, the water has come above their head. That also, they would lose all consciousness. That was their level of achievement in the spiritual realm. আবার ভাটা পড়েছে, ধ্যান ভাঙে না. And when the waters used to recede, the tide had receded, even then they never used to get any consciousness of, okay, now water has come down. used to get merged in water during high tide, during the ebb tide, when water used to, they used to get exposed during the ebb tide. But they had no consciousness. They were not at all aware of what is happening. We are drowning in water, or water is receding, the ebb tide is receding, and we are exposed. No consciousness. Nothing. আবার ভাটা পড়েছে তবু ধ্যান ভঙ্গে না. Their meditation never used to get disturbed, even if there was a tide. এরশোর মধ্যে একশো বুঝেছিল. বীরভদ্র কি বলবে? Now out of those 1300 disciples, 100 Nedas, 100 disciples, they could make out that what is there in Veerbhadra's mind. That why he told us to go to Ganges, take bath, offer Sandhya, do the worship, and then you come and see me. Those 100 sharp fellows, they understood. গুরু বাক্য লঙ্ঘন করতে নয়, তাই তারা সরে পড়ল আর বীরভদ্রের সঙ্গে দেখা করলে না. Now, thinking that they should not disobey their guru, they should not disobey their preceptor, they just disappeared, vanished from the place, that we should not incur the sin of not listening to the Guru's words. Go to Ganges, take bath, offer Sandhya, offer worship, and then come to me. Now, if we have not done this, it will incur a sin upon us that we have not followed Guru's words. So what those 100 smart Nedas they did, they just disappeared, as if they have not heard their Guru's words. They just disappeared. So there is no question of going to Ganges. There is no question of taking a dip. There is no question of taking bath. There is no question of offering Sandhya, offering worship. And then also there is no question of going to Guru to see what he says. They had that feel. They had that intuition. They knew what he is going to say. আর বীরভদ্রের সঙ্গে দেখা করলে না. They didn't go to meet Veerbhadra. বাকি 1200 দেখা করলো. Remaining 1200, as their guru had said, they took bath in the Ganges, they did Sandhya, they offered worship, and then they went to see Veerbhadra. Now what happened? Veerbhadra বললেন, এই 1300 নেরি তোমাদের সেবা করবে, তোমরা এদের বিয়ে করো. Then Veerbhadra told them, the remaining 1200 came. Then Veerbhadra told them, here are 1300. Veerbhadra had not anticipated that these 100 smart fellows will just vanish. So for 1300 Nedas, he had invited 1300 Nedis, the 7-headed nuns. And then he told those 1200 Nedas who went to him that এই 1300 নেরি তোমাদের সেবা করবে. These 1300 7-headed nuns, Nedis, they will serve you. তোমরা এদের বিয়ে করো. You marry these nuns. ওরা বললে, এ আজ্ঞা, কিন্তু আমাদের মধ্যে 100 জন কোথায় চলে গেছে? Those remaining people said, very well, as you please, but 100 of us have disappeared. Now we are only 1200 and these Nedis are 1300. এ 1200 এখন প্রত্যেকের সেবা দাসী সঙ্গে থাকতে লাগলো. Now what happened? Fine. So these 1200, they started uh, living with these 1200 nuns, and each of these 1200, they were accompanied by one lady each, who was there to serve the nedas. Now what happened? Me- এখন এ 1200 এখন প্রত্যেকের সেবা দাসী সঙ্গে থাকতে লাগলো. Now, these 1200 monks, they got 1200 maid servants like. So, তখন আর সে তেজ নয়, সে তপস্যার বল নয়, and the moment they started staying together, that power, glory of their austerities, everything started diminishing. Now there was no worry for Veerabhadra that now they had lost that charm, they had lost that power, they had lost that position, that whatever they thought, it would never come into effect, because all that power, all that charm, it got diminished, it got diluted, it vanished in fact. মেয়ে মানুষ সঙ্গে থাকাতে আর সে বোল রইল না. The moment they started living with these ladies, that power, that power, it just vanished. কেন সে সঙ্গে স্বাধীনতা লোপ হয়ে যায়. Then also lost their freedom. Earlier when they were performing austerities, they had nothing but one focused mind. And now, that's it. Now there were no austerities. They even lost their own freedom of performing the austerities, because now they got entangled. And so that, having told the story of how 1200 Nedas lost all their glory and power the moment Veerbhadra asked them to get married, take one lady each, will serve them. That's it. So, when you get entangled into lust and greed, you lose your freedom. You are no more a free person. You have no free will. So, Bijoyar Prati. Now, Sri Ramakrishna is addressing to Vijay Krishna Goswami. তোমরা নিজে নিজে তো দেখছো. You yourself, you are seeing, my child, পরের কর্ম স্বীকার করে কি হয়ে রয়েছে. You yourself are seeing, my child, that having taken up a job with someone, having now Vijay is a salaried employee of Brahmo Samaj. So Sri Ramakrishna tells him, you yourself are seeing what happens to one who takes up a job with someone else. আর দেখো, কত পাশ করা, কত ইংরেজি পড়া পণ্ডিত মনিবের চাকরি স্বীকার করে তাদের বুট জুতার গঞ্জা দুবেলা খায়. Such a I mean, most practical and serious statement Sri Ramakrishna has made here. He says, you yourself know what happens when you accept employment under somebody. And not only that, what happens? Many scholars, many pundits who have studied so much, higher degrees, higher qualifications, কত পাশ করা, কত ইংরাজি পড়া পণ্ডিত. So many scholars who have studied, who have had English education, British education, many degrees, BA, MA. মনিবের চাকরি স্বীকার করে, they have to accept, they have to accept the uh, job under some master. Hmm? Ader boot jotar gunja dubela khai, and then they have to even get crushed under the feet of their English masters. Those why Sri Ramakrishna has mentioned specifically about boot juta or gunja. It is typically English masters, employers, those during that time they used to attend office suited booted. And that's how the culture started among Indian working class also. So ultimately, you get trampled under those suited booted Englishmen, under the shoes and the boots of Englishmen, under the feet of those masters. Mm. Ero karon, kebol kamini. Why this happens? Sri Ramakrishna says. This taking up a service. If you are all alone, I mean, okay, your wants, your needs are so meager. You don't have to become slave of anybody. But now you have got tremendous responsibility. Which in fact is Sri Ramakrishna says, no, it is not bad. But inadvertently, we fall into that trap of getting more and more drowned in the work rather than doing what we really want to do. And then we get trampled under the feet of the masters. And the reason for this is only Kamini, lust. That's the only reason. Like those 1200 Nedas who had a downfall from that position, from that power. বিয়ে করে নদের হাট বসিয়ে আর হাট তোলবার জন্যই। Having married and enjoyed the happy household fare, you can't escape now. Hmm? It is, there is no escape. There is you cannot get freed from that net now. You have got married, you have got a family, you have got burdens. Now you have to get into it. তাই এ তো অপমান বোধ, তো দাসত্বের যন্ত্রণা. And that's why at times they have to put up with humiliation because the master wants you to behave in that fashion only, to work in that fashion only. Master wants you to work from this time to this time. There is no freedom. So you have to even put up with all this humiliation. I eto opman bodh, to dashitpur jantrana, and suffering because of the slavery and humiliation. So that is a very personal teaching Sri Ramakrishna has given to Vijay Krishna Goswami. The moment Vijay Krishna Goswami says that, yes, I very much wish to come to you and meet you and spend time with you, but now I have taken up this job, salaried job at the Brahmo Samaj. And therefore Sri Ramakrishna says that once a person gets entangled into this kind of worldly enjoyments of lust and greed, we lose our freedom. A man loses his freedom, and then he has to put up with all kind of wrong things in his life. He has to put up with humiliation. He has to put up with whatever the boss says. So everything is, Sri Ramakrishna says, because of the temptation of lust and greed. Now, we will stop our reading of this fourth chapter here today. We will again continue the reading tomorrow. And till then, it is Om Namah Shri Bhagavate Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Jai Thakur, Jai Ma, Jai Swami.